Welcome to Health News and Views, a podcast dedicated to bringing some clarity to the health disparities in the Black and Brown communities. If you believe there's a connection between food, sickness, and health, then you're in the right place. Let's begin the process of unraveling the truth. And now your host, Lynn Pete.
Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of Health News and Views, Food, the Final Frontier. Hi, I'm your host, Lynn Pete. Well, thanks for stopping by again. It's always a pleasure to have you. In today's world, we are tasked with many life, work, and family situations. And I have a question for you. Are you able to keep up with all the dates and duties? I know I'm struggling here. And are you good at prioritizing? I'm getting better at that too. In today's episode, we'll explore one of the aspects that may help you keep it all straight. And this is called, I need a nap. Anyway, before we get started, here's our disclaimer that the subject matter provided in this podcast or any of other published documents is for informational purposes only. Food, the Final Frontier, and our partner, Health News and Views. We do not attempt to treat, diagnose, or cure any disease or condition. Always check with your healthcare provider before making any lifestyle, dietary, or prescription drug changes. Here's some fun food facts. Did you know that strawberries, just a cup of strawberries, has more vitamin C than an orange, plus folate, plus potassium and fiber? You may want to try that out if you're struggling with a little bit of gastrointestinal issues. Cucumbers. They're made up of 95% water. So cucumbers are hydrating and contain fiber too, and lutein, which helps promote better vision, very much like tomatoes. And lastly, potatoes. They are top bananas when it comes to potassium. In other words, if you need potassium to help strengthen your muscles and also help to control blood pressure, oftentimes they're saying now that potassium levels tend to be low if you're suffering with high blood pressure. And we have always thought that bananas were high in potassium, but they aren't the best source necessarily. Potatoes even have more potassium than bananas. And if you don't have, and guess what? They have no fat, and they are a good source of vitamins and iron too. So there you have it. There are your 3 fun food facts for today. Have you ever worked with someone who seems to always be edgy or troubled? Can you tell the tone of the day once you have encountered a client, patient, or supervisor that just seems to be a little off kilter? Did you say to yourself, now, he could use a nap, or she could use a nap? Well, that's the topic of today's podcast. I need a nap. There's nothing more refreshing to me lately than an afternoon nap. Problem is, I don't always get one. So in this podcast, and actually in a previous podcast that was posted almost 2 years ago now, we did one on Let's Hit the Sack. In that podcast, we covered the importance of sleep. Well, in this podcast, we will explore the physical and psychological effects of sleep deprivation. You know, it turns out that the experts agree. The role of a daytime nap is healthy for adults. In a recent finding, they said, and this is PubMed, National Institutes of Health, that a nap during the afternoon restores wakefulness and promotes performance and learning. Naps of less than 30 minutes, not a whole hour or two, but naps less than 30 minutes in duration have several benefits, they say. But longer naps are associated with the loss of productivity and sleep inertia, the research went on to say. In summary, what they're saying is that the habit of taking a frequent and long naps may be associated with higher morbidity and mortality, especially among the elderly. And benefits of napping could be best obtained by training the body and mind to awaken after a short nap. So worse than not getting a nap is not getting sufficient amount of sleep. And the evidence points to that fact. And this is reported by the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. The evidence points to the facts. The CDC says that it has been reported that 35% of adults say that they're not getting 7 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. And that 70% of high school students report getting fewer than 8 hours sleep in an average weeknight. And overall, about 15 million children in the United States do not get sufficient amount of sleep. So are we all sleep deprived? Well, what exactly does that mean? According to the Cleveland Clinic, sleep deprivation is when a person doesn't get enough sleep. And this can be a short-term issue, affecting maybe one or a few nights, or it can be a chronic concern that lasts weeks or even months. Sleep deprivation can happen for countless reasons, many of them harmless, but sleep is something that everyone needs, and most people need a similar amount, depending on their age. However, the amount also changes with age. Some people need more sleep and feel well rested, while others need less. But these exceptions are common. A change in your sleep patterns, gradual or sudden, is a reason to talk to maybe a healthcare provider. So how much sleep do you really need? Well, they say newborns need 14 to 17 hours. Infants, 4 to 12 months old, need about 12 to 16 hours. And young children, 5 years old, 1 to 5, they need 10 to 14 hours, including a nap. School-age children between ages 6 and 12, 9 to 12 hours. Teenagers, 8 to 10 hours. And some of us old folks, we definitely should have 7 to 9 hours worth of sleep. The research shows that the chronic sleep deprivation can cause and contribute to a variety of health issues. And who would ever think that sleep had anything to do with that? Well, sleep is involved in the regulation of cholesterol and blood sugar levels. Did you know that? Sleep can also impact your diet and physical activity. And we don't get enough sleep, our bodies can crave energy-dense foods that are rich in fats and carbohydrates. So if you wake up in the morning and you're reaching for a donut or something sweet, chances are you didn't get enough sleep the night before. That would determine how the sugar is metabolized in your system. So we also experience fatigue, sleepiness during the day, which can reduce our motivation to exercise and possibly impair our performance when we do exercise. Well, they say that sleep deprivation is associated with the risk of cardiometabolic conditions, including obesity, hypercholesterolemia, that's high cholesterol levels, diabetes, hypertension. Having short sleep durations, particularly less than 7 hours a night, is associated with risk of cardiovascular disease, morbidity, and mortality. It has an impact on our immune health as well. Important proteins involved in immune and function and inflammation, called like cytokines, they're decreased when we don't get enough sleep. The immune regulation during sleep may also help us recover and repair wounds or fight off infections. Consistent sleep can actually strengthen the immune system. Long-term sleep deprivation can negatively impact your immune response and can enhance your susceptibility to infections and reduce an immune response to vaccinations. BetterHealthChannel.com says that sleep deprivation is thought to lead to persistent low-grade inflammation and also produce immunodeficiency, which both have detrimental effects to your health. Well, how do you know if you're sleep deprived? Well, here's a couple of symptoms. Do you fall asleep when you're not intending to, like I do sometimes? Reading the newspaper or watching TV? Do you fall asleep quickly when you go to bed, but don't stay asleep? Do you sleep for long hours on the weekend? Oh, I don't get a chance to do that either. Taking naps. That would be me. Feeling fatigued or lethargic throughout the day. Yawning frequently. Maybe feeling a little irritable. Is that you? Change in our mood, feeling depressed or anxious, stressed, paranoid, or even experiencing suicidal thoughts. Well, if there are changes in how you think and you move, do you have difficulty concentrating or staying focused? How about trouble remembering things? Does it take you and one other to help finish a sentence? Processing information at a lower pace? How about poor balance and coordination? That sometimes happens. Do you have an increased appetite, especially for calorie-dense foods? You're craving all the things you shouldn't have. Well, these symptoms can have an impact on your brain as well. And sleep plays a key role in memory formation and consolidation. Sleep is vitally important for flushing out toxic waste products that build up in your brain during the day. Accumulation of these toxic proteins are involved in the development of Alzheimer's. So sleep deprivation is associated with the risk of both cognitive decline and dementia. Deprivation is also a comorbid with mental health disorders such as anxiety and depression, and is closely connected to emotional regulation. Some of the psychological health impacts are memory problems, reduced cognitive function. That means poor sleep affects attention, decision-making, problem-solving skills, and your overall cognitive performance. You have some emotional instability. Are you paranoid? Like somebody's always taking things from you or coming after you or something? There's some emotional stability that needs to be addressed here. Lack of sleep actually heightens the stress response and then can exacerbate anxiety disorders. You have mood disorders. How about impaired judgment and risk-taking? Poor decision-making. Sleep-deprived individuals tend to make poor decisions and are more likely risk-taking behaviors. Did you know accidents and injuries are also the cause, oftentimes, of sleep deprivation? Lack of sleep increases the risk of accidents, both on the road and in the workplace, due to impaired alertness and reaction time. Is there a difference between sleep deprivation and insomnia? Well, according to the experts, they said insomnia and sleep deprivation are closely related, but aren't the same thing. Insomnia is when you're unable to sleep when you try. Sleep deprivation, however, is what happens when you don't give yourself enough time to sleep. It would actually deprive itself of sleep. Only humans do that. Crazy, right? Well, let's do our own sleep analysis. I know my sleep activity pales in comparison to most, and whatever prescribed actions that should be taken. However, I do and would like you to participate with me in your own sleep activity and sleep analysis, and let's see what we come up with. In other words, do come back for part 2 of I Need a Nap, and we will explore some practices to aid in taking back our sleep and regaining our physical and psychological attributes that would make us feel good, look good, and become the awesome specimen of a human being that we can possibly do. Thanks for stopping by to Food, the Final Frontier, and Health News and Views. Please share and like the podcast and add to it if you'd like to. I'd love to hear from you. Today, let's focus on stressing less and spending more time feeling blessed. Make it a powerful day. See you next time. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Health News and Views. Join us again next time as we continue to explore the correlation between food, sickness, and health. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave a review for Lynn. She would love to hear your comments. Thanks again for listening, and remember, food is the final frontier.